Welcome back. Well, we're going to continue on our deep dive into the TrafficViewer Pro software. So, without wasting any time, let's go ahead and start TrafficViewer Pro. And as soon as it starts, we'll begin. All right, here we are, the familiar little screen. Okay, we're going to discuss some more features around the screen, which we hadn't got to yet. So, anyway, we'll start off. First, I'll connect a counter. Now, you'll notice before I connect it, this area is blank. There's a couple buttons over here. Yeah. So when I get a counter connected, like the one I was using the other day, these buttons now pop up. These are things you can do to the unit. They're only available there when a unit's connected because these only affect things you would do with the unit connected. The button, we've used it before. When I did the earlier one, to download your data, you click the download button. And then there's another one called configure unit. If you look here, there's a blank ID screen, my counter. Well, if my counter is actually inside the unit, this is all information inside the unit here. So there it is. You hit configure unit, and there's a couple things you can do in there. One is you can make this field, you can do whatever you want, put whatever you want there, and it stays with the counter. So you might put Joe's counter number 48 or something, whatever you want. There is a dwell time. It should always be 30 milliseconds. We set it that way in the factory. It is settable to something less or more, but less generally. But this is not the dwell that you see when doing reports. This is a dwell that's in the machine itself. So we don't advise touching it except if there's a very rare need for some unusual situation. And then the other thing down here, it has to do with passwords. Leave passwords disabled. Yeah, don't touch this at all. If you end up putting a password in the unit and then you don't remember it or you don't remember doing it, you're going to have to call us to get help to get that password cleared out. You can't do it unless you remember it. Okay, so if you make a change, hit the save button. Otherwise, you can just cancel. We left it unchanged. The other thing, when you connect down here, there's a little status screen. You'll see COM3 open, device info, read successfully. And TrafficViewer Pro is up to date, so it's got the most current updates in it. Let's see if we close out of this. Now let's go ahead up here to disconnect. Okay, let's go do this, the pull down menu first. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, file open. That would be if you want to open a file, which that's just the same as the button down in the lower right corner. Open file. And save if you want to save, export, or print reports. These are all buttons that are inside the data overview screen, which we've already discussed. Recent files is just recent files you've opened. Oops. File. Advanced. This is save data this is an old format that we had in counters long ago. So I think we've purged everything out of the system by now. Probably don't need it. Preferences. This is the same as the preference button down in the lower right corner here. We'll discuss that here shortly. And exit, and that's to close out, same as the exit button in the lower right corner. Communications. This is the same as the communications window here. These buttons affect that, and the ones that pop up on the bottom down here. They're duplicated up here. So the auto detect, if we click on that, it auto detects just like we'd hit the auto detect button here. And there's our counter connected now. Likewise, when the counter connected, of course, the buttons pop up. And they were grayed out before. Now they're all active. And these are the ones that are down below. And down at the bottom, there's an advanced. These are the same as the buttons we've already discussed down below or inside the communication screen. The advanced is an activation code. You can get a request for activation code. If something goes wrong with your unit, like a password gets set which you didn't want, and we can clear it out. However, you have to generate a request code to send to us. We run it into a piece of software that will then generate an activation code, which then can be applied to your counter, and that'll clear out the password. So you just have to follow this procedure. You get the request code, you send us that via email or text or any method that's suitable. I believe you have 24 hours to use that, to send it and use it before it times out. There is a timeout in the unit. After so much time, it won't work. So in any case, that's the procedure you go through, and that's only if there's a problem comes up, you need to do it. Let me clear this out. We're not going to do that. Okay, the next button, that was communications. We got through that. The view pop down has a few entries in it. These two here just allow you to move these things around. Like if one of them somehow gets put off the screen, you can't see it, and you want to get it back. These help you bring it back into reality. If you don't touch them, it's never going to be a problem. Then there is the log file. The log file is only used in troubleshooting. At least that's all we use it for. And once in a while, your unit will give you a warning message that something's wrong with your unit. And we tell you, well, it's most likely the battery voltage is getting low. But we could verify that by using, the only place you can get the battery voltage reading is in the log file. And you go down to the last entry in the log file at the very bottom, and connection established. So there's a few lines of code that come up when you make a connection. It tells you what it connected to. It tells you what it connected to serial number wise, and version of firmware, and some other parameters inside the unit. Most of which shows up in this screen. But there is out here, it does also read the voltage, and it gives the voltage. So it says voltage, yes, 3.11. So the voltages in the units typically stay around 3.05 for the life of the battery. They'll be a little higher, and then as you use the battery, they come down. And then it just sits at like 305 for years. And at the very last 2% of the battery life, the voltage will actually begin to plummet down. Move down a little bit. And it'll drop below 3. We detect it when it gets down to 2.9. That's when we put a message up. The counter can still be used at 2.9 volts, and it can be safely used down to about 2.7 volts. So if you see the red screen, you could make sure the voltage is still okay enough to use the unit. You can continue to use the unit until it reaches 2.7. But in any case, at that point, when it gets down to 2.9, it's time to consider replacing the unit. Or in some instances, we can possibly boost the voltage. So it's a temporary type fix that sometimes can happen, that sometimes works. So you just give us a call when you get that. I think it tells you to call us. Okay, clear log. Oh, yeah, the clear log button will clear. I'm not going to clear it, but the clear log button will clear this whole thing out, because all it does, it just grows forever until you clear it. So in any case, there's that. I'll just close it. Okay, the next one. In view is log file. The other thing in view is advanced. And we show additional details, graphical timestamp, and show timestamp list. And show additional details when you go to upload let's open our counter up. When you go to download it, let's do a download. Okay, we're going to see some details here. Okay, and then we'll continue on. And it calculates, this is normally what you get is the data overview screen, but when you show additional details, it gives you some more information that you may or may not find useful. But during troubleshooting, we use these screens to see if we can see what's going on. Yeah, the timestamp list is not too readable to you, but it's the exact map of what's in the counter, and that list is very long. Depends how much data is in the unit, but it's thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of entries. So uh, as by itself, it's not too useful. Oh, the wrong one. View advanced. Okay, but once we got a file loaded, if it's a classification scheme where two hoses are specified, you'll also get an ability to show a graphical timestamp or the timestamp list. This is the timestamp list. You can show that too. And the graphical timestamp it looks kind of like this. I'm not going to go in details here. I'm just going to show you that it exists. And myself, whenever I activate it, I stretch it out to go across the whole screen. And this shows the data in a graphical mode. Let's see if we can, I don't know if there's any data to be seen. This was done on a calibrator, so its window is very short. And yeah, it's not that day, so it's probably the next day. Well, in any case, I'll go into this with a better file in later on in another video. But that's useful, the graphical timestamp, to analyze when things don't seem to be counting correct, to see where the problem might lie. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not. But the graphical timestamp can help you in that front. The help screen just gives you a typical view the change log, TrafficViewer Pro website, takes you to our website, online documentation, and contact vehicle counts and contact your distributor. So those are the other things that are available there. Okay, now let me close this up. Would you like to change before? No, I don't want to save it. Okay, well, that's pretty much it for. I've covered all the buttons, and we've just got a couple features that are advanced that I think I'll cover in another video, because this one's kind of getting, well, it's not too bad. Let's go ahead and do the graphical timestamp. I'll have to open a file that makes sense, though. Let me open a file. There's one down here that I was using before, which seems pretty good. Data settings. Let's go set him to. These are settings I did on the file. Well, that's good. We'll just do this. Select layout. Oh, okay. Well, let's just do that and continue. And this had bidirectional data, so it's two hoses across two lanes. I'll go ahead and clear this out because it's normally not there unless you ask for it. Okay, two hoses, two lanes, but what we want to do is look at the graphical timestamp. We'll look at this data and the graphical timestamp. So here we are. And what you do here is, normally the data is in timestamp order, but we can actually take a look at it in a graphical form. And I'll show you what that looks like. This window here is going to have the dots or the dashes that represent the hits. And the scroll bar will take you out until you start seeing data. In this case, the timestamp list is active as well. And you'll see there is two hits. It says there's an A and a B hit here. If And then we can scroll in using the scroll bar on your mouse or clicking on the per screen. This is the time that's represented by this whole screen. So 15 seconds. I'm going to get in closer on it. 5 seconds represents the whole time. And here's 2 seconds for this whole time. And here's kind of hits. They're like really close together. If you scroll over the hit, and it'll give you the timestamp. If you read that timestamp, it's in seconds since the unit was initialized or last zeroed or cleared. And it gives you the hex version of the timestamp below that. But this gives you the time in seconds. And then this one is also the time, and you can see these are pretty close together. 2561.444, 2561.457. So they're only 57 for 13 milliseconds apart. That's not even normal. That's certainly not an A to B time unless the hoses were right next to each other. So that one's just noise. There's handling noise once in a while that'll show up on the hoses or on the counters, I mean, when they're before they're put out. So let's go to the next day. Oh, that's right. I forget where the data was in this unit. Oh yeah, here we are. We're starting to hit it now. So this is a typical of the data, and normally we would be in like 15 minutes. You can see these are all vehicles. At 15 minutes, you can't see the axles too clearly. They're kind of merged together, but you can see the vehicles. And this line here is the A hits, this is the B hits, and these are the interpretations all expanded out, so it makes sense. But in any case, 15 minutes, you get yourself, you can click over here to move a half a screen at a time, time-wise. And here it tells you the time 07:02:39. This tells you the time of the day that it occurred. And it goes in 15-minute chunks, 32 to 47, and so forth. You can hit the arrows to go like in half chunks, these little arrows. You can move it, but it only moves about half a step instead of the full 15. It moves 7.5. Anyway, that's how you move around in the screen. The only other thing you use the zoom, which you can do on the scroll bar, and the previous day, next day to get to next bits of data. So, any case, if you have a scroll bar on your mouse, that's kind of handy. Say we take this vehicle, well, let's take this one. We want to know more details about it. And by golly, there it is. That's a 2-axle vehicle. Actually, this here, the green, tells you how it was classified. It was classed as a Class 2, moving at 27 miles an hour with 2 axles and an axle spacing of 269 inches. This was the B hose hit first. So the B hose, A hose, B hose, A hose. And you'll notice on this first set of hits, there was an extra count. The red means that it was filtered out. So we're not using that count in determining this vehicle. It's we have a dwell time, which we discussed earlier in an earlier video, that allows you to, when there's hose hits, particularly at slower speeds, you'll get multi-counts on each hit. And the dwell time allows you to take out those extra hits that don't belong there. So the black dots are what's used in the interpretation, and the red dots are hits that were recorded in the counter, but we're not using them for calculations purposes. And you can go through vehicles like that all the way. Here's one. Only the B had an extra bounce on it. The AB, or BA. Again, that was BA. So you can see the direction that the count's going. Here's one going AB. And you notice the the information about the vehicle, the class information for the A channel, A direction hoses is going in the bottom, and the ones for the B hose being hit first are on the top. So it has to do with your settings of the arrows and the AB choice on the hoses. Again, this one was class 2, speed 28, number of axles 2, spacing was 251, A to B, so it's going in the other direction, and from the one before. And here's what we call cluster information. The gray tells you when it snags a cluster. This is a cluster. All the bits there are a cluster. So from the cluster, it gets the speed. Oops. Get back on that. Okay, it gets the speed, it gets the total length, hits A, hits B, and that's after they're filtered out. So the number of axle groups, 2, first 12 groups, axle counts, group 1, group 2. So these are just things we use when classifying or qualifying the vehicles. And this is the actual result of the classification of the vehicle. So this screen is really useful for looking for. Now here's some hits that got quite a bit of noise, as it were, but it all filtered out. So what you got left is good, clean ABs. And you can, let's get down to, yeah. If we get in the middle of the day, we'll get much denser traffic usually. This one's not, yeah, I wasn't familiar with this file, but it's not particularly denser. But there's the extra hits, just to tell you that to see extra hits that are filtered out, you want them filtered out, but to see extra hits is good because it means your signal's plenty strong. And when it's a strong signal, the noise signals can be stronger too, so you'll see it. But this tells you it's strong. What you don't want to see is little, if any, extra noise, and like one of these missing. The missing spot is not good. It wouldn't be classified for one. It wouldn't know what to do with it. And I don't know if we got one in here in this particular file or not. We'll just keep looking. Here's a nice clean hit. It was in the B to A. So, and that's the other thing you can do. When you get used to using this, you'll see that, let's go to another day and see if it gets a little more density. Yeah, this file's not got a lot of density. Some of them got, in 15 seconds, we'd be seeing several vehicles. But in any case, so this one's pretty good just for show and tell, but it's not, let's see. Just looking to see if there's one that didn't, these don't have enough resolution to show up until you expand it out, and then there it is. But in any case, that was a good clean hit. Well, there's not much else to show you on this. The timestamp list, in case you're interested in the ABs, the ones that are used are just in white and blue on the very first one, but the ones that are filtered out are made red. So, and these pretty much, the list starts at the left side of the screen and heads across. The list is a lot longer than, as you can see, there's a scroll list here, so you can go down this list. But that's only useful at the most difficult troubleshooting where we use that. Well, here's one that, okay, here's one that didn't get classified, it looks like. Yeah, so here's one exactly what I was telling you about. Had a missing axle. Now, this possibly wasn't the missing axle. It might have had to do with the dwell time. Got it. But he's been filtered out for some reason. So there wasn't one enough. See, it should have been here. Could have been there. So So either the software has misinterpreted this hit, or there was one missing, and it wasn't able to get it into a vehicle that made sense. Anyway, these are the kind of things you look for in your data if you're having problems. The other thing this is really useful for is classifying, doing a video where you want to say, well, how good is it classifying? And you take videos of the data. And, our reports just show you how many vehicles of each type were grabbed. But this gives you an actual detail, axle by axle, of what the video doesn't give you axle by axle, it gives you the vehicle. This gives you the vehicle was determined by the axle configuration we saw. Once you align the two times in your video to the time here, it takes a little doing sometimes to find them, but once you get them synced up, you can move through the video and then look and see what it classified and why it might have classified something the way it did. Okay, so this screen's useful when you're setting up first time for a count, or you're doing a low speed study. You want to make sure you set the dwells right and stuff. And it's generally when you're not familiar with the count you're trying to set up. So this just helps you verify, yeah, I've set it up right. That's as good as I'm going to get. Yeah, it looks ugly when you get into high congestion, because especially if you're across two lanes, because there's a lot of interferences. But anyway, it's useful to give you information you can't get any other way. Okay. The only other advanced thing here that I haven't really gone into is doing your own scheme. We'll leave that for another time, another tape. Thank you very much. Good counting, or happy counting.